Advice from a friend. "7:00 p.m., Friday, at the bar." "One little drink won't hurt," said Kylie, sealing her fate and condemning herself to the worst night of her life. "10 p.m., Friday, in the car of a stranger." "I think you passed my street." She was very sure, in fact, that her street had been passed. She'd been looking for it in between the waves of nausea and had seen the sign. But then again, maybe she did have some doubt. Her vision was swimming in and out, so she wasn't sure if she had read it correctly. But then again, she had been rather close to it, her head being pressed against the window the way it was. "Hey, sir? Do you hear me? I think you passed my—" But then she was interrupted by his large hand smacking her across the face. Kylie hadn't noticed in the bar with all those people standing around just how big this guy was. She might not have accepted his offer of a ride if she had noticed. She sat back in her seat, stunned in silence, unable to process what was happening. 10:26 p.m., driving further into nowhere. "Where are you taking me?" she asked after marshalling up the courage. She was rewarded with yet another smack, this time harder than the first. Before she could think of how to talk her way out of the situation or to escape, her entire world had faded to black. Perhaps because of the harsh slap or the drugs she'd been unwittingly fighting off all night, she'd never know. When she woke up again, she'd be unable to remember the ride at all. 1:00 a.m., Saturday, waking up chained to a bed. "Hello?" Kylie called out, softly. Her head was spinning and she didn't know where she was. Even the thought of sitting up made her want to be sick. She knew she wasn't home, but she couldn't think of anywhere else she could possibly be. Unless she'd been having a terrible dream about being abducted, but that couldn't be true, now could it? The last thing that she could clearly recall was that she had been supposed to meet up with a friend at a bar. Everything after that was hazy. Surely, if she wasn't in her own bed, she must be in someone else's bed. A friend, or worst case scenario, she'd gotten a little bit tipsy and was at the home of a one-night stand. In either case, someone would be around. "Hello?" she called again, a little louder. "Hello?" Someone responded this time. There were too many things about that one word for her to process in the state she was in. It was a deep male voice, and it was warm, welcoming. It was also not coming from beside her in the bed, but from the other side of what sounded like a rather large room. Kylie tried to open her eyes, not sure why she hadn't started with that. Then she realized that they had been open. Everything was just dark. "Who are you?" she asked, trying to sound braver than she felt. "A friend." 3:30 a.m., talking to a friend. "I wish I could see you." Her friend had taught her a lot. In the couple of hours that they had known one another, they had bonded. Dire situations have a way of forcing people who might ordinarily have nothing in common to become the best allies when facing an enemy. At the end of the day, friendships were all about survival, and Kylie's new friend had taught her a lot about surviving in her new prison. He'd been there for her when she had been sick and when she first discovered the chain around her ankle. He'd calmed her down and answered her questions to the best of his ability. He told her about their situation. There was one man and one woman. He wasn't sure what their relationship was. He thought at one point that perhaps they were brother and sister, what with them looking alike and all, but then again, he'd seen them doing things to one another that no siblings should be doing. The man would hit harder, but the woman kept a person longer, which was crueler in its own way. As Kylie listened to him describe, in only the faintest detail, the sorts of things he'd seen in his time here, she felt like being sick all over again, and once or twice, she had been. She was scared. She'd never been a tough person, and judging from her friend's assessment of the situation, she didn't think that she'd last very long at all. All things considered, she wasn't sure she'd want to. Dying would be preferable to her. She didn't want to linger during years of torture like her new friend must have, seeing others come and go. He sounded weak, tired, and in great pain. She never wanted that to be her. The one small thing she would have asked was that she could see her new friend's face. With all of their discussion, she felt like she knew him, and she'd rather his face be the last one she saw, rather than that of her captor. Her eyes had adjusted to the dark somewhat, and she was now sitting in the bed facing the direction his voice came from. But even squinting, she could see no more than a vaguely human-like shape in the dark. "Maybe someday you will," he answered sadly. 4:00 a.m. in the dark. "How long do we have?" she asked. "It varies," he said, "but usually they don't come until morning." 5:00 a.m., not long before sunrise. "I have to ask, is there any way out?" Kylie had dreaded asking this question because she had a feeling she would not like the answer. If there was a way out, surely he would have taken it. Silence greeted her instead. "Hello?" she called out. "You could try to fight, but..." His voice trailed off. "But what?" she asked. Instead of answering that, he replied with, "Let me give you a piece of advice. If you do fight, do it now. Do it when they come for you." His voice sounded very tired then. "If not, you'll be waiting a long time. Despite as weak as you may be feeling now, you're not likely to get any stronger. Not here." 6:30 a.m. Waiting. In her hand, she held a key. It was the spare key to her friend's apartment. Fortunately, it hadn't been on her keyring yet. If it had been, it would have been in her purse, wherever that creep had taken it. Luckily, he hadn't checked her pockets before chaining her to the filthy bed. It made for a very poor weapon, but it was sharp at the end and was better than nothing. She had decided to take her friend's advice. The captors had keys on them at all times. If she could bring him down, she'd be free. And should all else fail, if she could at least hurt him, he'd probably kill her quickly out of rage. And should she fail, she thought that perhaps that was the best she could hope for. She'd make her move and go for the eyes. She laid on her side, pretending to be asleep, waiting for the footsteps to get closer. She tensed as she felt his weight on the bed, but then she lunged. 6:47 a.m., laying in blood. "Kylie," said a voice. She was too tired to answer. The voice came back, louder and more persistent. "Kylie, you need to get up. You need to unchain yourself. It's now or never. You managed to take out the bigger one, but if his woman comes down here before you've moved, you're not strong enough to fight again. Get up, Kylie." She had won the fight, but only barely. The initial shock and the blood loss from losing the first eye had been enough to weaken him, but that was only a relative term. He'd still been strong enough to beat her bloody, which he continued to do until his last breath, even as she'd been stabbing away at him with her sad little key. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I can't." She had tried to tell him she wasn't a good fighter. She wasn't strong. She let the blackness take her again. 11:00 a.m., standing behind her new friend. Coming to, a wave of relief rushed over her. The woman hadn't found her yet. There might still be time for her to unlock the both of them, and they could escape together. But something seemed wrong. He hadn't spoken to her, not since the sun had risen. Unlocking the shackles that held her, she made her way over to the other filthy bed, with her friend's figure lying still under the sheets. He had probably fallen asleep while she was unconscious. No matter though, she'd get him out and they would both escape. "I've got the key. I'm going to get you out, okay?" She pulled back the sheet covering her friend and screamed. Jumping away, she gazed in disbelief at the frail body that lay before her. It had discolored, pale flesh that caused the lifeless head to fall to one side. She watched with horror as his eyeball fell out and rolled across the floor. She rushed up the stairs, more eager than ever to be back home. You see, it wasn't just the fact that her friend had died that spooked her. No, it was the fact that he had obviously been dead for a very long time.